Hello and welcome to this video, and today I want to talk about two things about quality of consciousness and its relation to observation, and why the mind that is observing is actually important, and the attributes that are related to the mind that is observing, and also the quality of consciousness that is observing an object is important in our endeavor to enhance our consciousness to a state of full realization or self-realization now, or simply to enhance our meditative experience. Now, if you're new here on this channel, I want to give a brief introduction to those who are new and tell them what this channel is all about. In this channel, we talk about spirituality and philosophy, and especially the philosophy that originated in the area of India. And of course, this kind of philosophy has originated in different parts of the world, in places where people lived naturally, in places where people and tribes and indigenous cultures have survived. Their wisdom is strikingly similar to the systems that have developed in India. But if we look at the scriptures and if we look at the written texts, we find that most of the philosophy is very well aggregated, and people have worked upon this philosophy for years, and there are so many texts that have originated from and by Indian philosophers. Not to say, of course, that there have also been many Western philosophers who have come to startlingly coincidental results and observations that are very similar to Indian philosophy. A lot of Western philosophers come to my mind, and I will not take any names, but we are probably familiar with a few. Regardless, let us look into what I'm going to talk about in this particular video, that is quality of consciousness and observation, and why it is important to observe ourselves in this life. Observing ourselves is the most basic thing that we must do to endeavor into understanding truth. Usually we are taught to somehow understand the complex stars or the galaxies, or we are taught to learn anthropology, or we are taught to learn how we have evolved and the history of humankind. But rarely are we taught to really look at ourselves and the workings of our mind. Before we are taught all these things, we must know how we must learn and how basic epistemology works and how our mind grasps to things in this world. Even education is to be taught to a child. Regardless, the observation of the mind is very crucial in these philosophies that have developed here. Through observation of the mind alone, all of these philosophies have developed. And observing the mind requires you to enhance your consciousness over your activities, over your impressions, and in doing so, you will also enhance this faculty of consciousness, which is crucial for the meditative experience has a goal, and this goal is to somehow be detached from the mind and all of its impressions that lead us into action, that lead us into thought, that lead us into discrimination, which in turn leads us to suffering. The Buddha talked about this in depth, and we can see in many of his texts why he stressed upon simple awareness and not anything else regarding a ritual, regarding a philosophical system, or learning or educating yourself. Of course, there is a certain mind training that you go through wherein you resolve to be virtuous, to continue your investigation into the mind, to enhance your quality of consciousness. And so it is required that you must be basically trained in controlling the mind. But of course, only some aspects of the mind are controlled. The functions of the mind are similar to a function in a programming language, in a program. written in any programming language. We use functions to simply call upon them, which are automatic and have already been written down somewhere. Our mind works simply on this function or that function which we have gathered through learning, through experience, and all of these functions together are our personality. The way you wake up in the morning, the way you brush your teeth, the way you sleep, the way you walk, the way you talk. All of these run on these functions that are, by now, if you are an adult, are somehow embedded in your psyche. Of course, they are retrainable, and the mind is, of course, trainable again and again. You can learn things, but even for that, you will need a higher quality of consciousness. And so, the quality of consciousness can be enhanced through being more and more aware in our life. And awareness does not simply mean that you are aware of the outer things, of the outgoings and the ingoings of people around you, or your family, or your relatives, or your friends, or the latest research that has been going on, the latest situation that has developed in the political scene. By awareness, I mean simply by looking into ourselves and being aware. There is no object to be aware of. To simply be awareness itself. In it, of course, requires a certain kind of mindfulness wherein you are looking at your thoughts deliberately, or you are training your mind to think about a certain object, a certain mantra, or a certain repetitive word, or a certain repetitive action that you keep doing over and over again in order to make the mind more calm and make it peaceful, so that awareness shines all by itself. And so a person who observes things with a greater quality of consciousness will be able to remove the discriminations and see truth as it is, instead of falling for 100 of these discriminations and these cycles of duality. You are looking things as they are, instead of using the mind to discriminate things, to make it one pointed. You are looking. So the quality of consciousness is very important in observation, and it reminds me of the double split experiment which happened in around the early 1900s. It was a revolutionary step in quantum physics, and which basically said that the behavior of particles in the world which are observed are dependent on the observer. Somehow the behavior changes from a wavelength behavior to behavior that is a materialistic behavior. And this says a lot about our own observation of our minds, because our minds too work that way. Our minds also change their behavior when they are observed. With this, I want to stop this video, and if you like the video, be sure to like it and do a comment in the section down below so I can understand if you are interested in further videos. Thank you and bye.